Ladies and gentlemen, we are back following up great wins or ideas in the Scotch Gambit. If you have not already gotten my course available on Chessable, the Fast and Furious Scotch Gambit, well, here you get a free preview of the kind of power, punch, and explosiveness that this line packs. Pawn to e4. By now, we already know the Scotch Gambit starts after e5. White plays knight to f3, and black plays the most natural move, defending the pawn on e5. And here, white chose another move order to reach the Scotch Gambit. The Scotch Gambit can arise after d4, pawn takes, and also bishop c4. Or in this game, white played bishop c4. And after bishop c5, now pawn to c3, ready to play pawn to d4. Black played pawn knight to f6, and now pawn to d4, striking right back in the center. So black captured, white recaptures, and now bishop to b4 check. This position could be reached if we go back from the move d4, and if he takes with the pawn, bishop to c4. And this move order I give in my Scotch Gambit course on Chessable. And now if black plays bishop to c5, here white plays pawn to c3. Black is unable to take the pawn on c3. Why? You tell me. Because of bishop takes f7, king takes, and queen d5. We win back the bishop, and now the black king will be out in the open. Bishop to c4 here, and we get back to the game. And after bishop to b4 check, so the king is under check, while the white pawn is under attack. But here I recommend the move in my course, knight bd2, which is an old gambit. So black is allowed to take the pawn as the bishop pins the knight to the king. However, a whole lot of fun is happening in this line. After knight takes c4, pawn to d5. Now, in my course, we get to learn that this pawn on d5 is a real bone in the throat. Now, the game that I'm going to show you here today was played on Title Tuesday on chess.com between Almas Rakhmutaliev, which he's an international master, and he played against 2700 Grandmaster Dmitry Andreykin from the Russian Chess Federation. So here the knight is under attack, but before moving the knight, black decides to trade pieces. Because black is up a pawn, we gambited a pawn, and he has less space due to the pawn, so black logically wants to trade some pieces. So his remaining pieces have more space to maneuver with. So very logical here, and this is the main line, and I go into very deep detailed in my course on this. So we take back with the bishop. And again, now black knight is under attack. So black cannot just move the knight, otherwise we simply take his bishop. Black trades, we take with the queen. And after knight e7, the idea I discussed in the course is a relatively new idea. Typically, players play the move pawn to d6, opens the bishop, and the whole idea is after cd6, we hem in the bishop on c8, even at the price of 2 pawns. But the problem here is that black is eventually just going to castle and just sacrifice back the pawn with d5. And white will have to take and just give the other pawn with d6 just to open his bishop. And black is going to be equal without any issues. So here in the course, we want to keep the strong pawn on d5. It seems like it may close our bishop, but remember it's a bone in the throat. It keeps black cramped. Here, pawn to h4 is the move that I suggest. We signify our little intentions on the king side. In the game, black played g6. And white went ahead with h5, ready to open up the king side pawn structure. Black played h6, not allowing that pawn to go any further. It would be very lethal to allow it. Castle's queen side. So now you see this aggressive intention. And this position, I go into very deep detail in my course. And black here played a very logical move, castles. And now, rook d to g1, ready to wage war with the move pawn to g4. This is a caveman barbaric opening. We are not hiding our intentions. We're ready to play g4, g5, and give mate. Have you ever seen an opening like this? Now I have, but they usually don't work out too well. But in this opening, everything is engine checked in my course with the best chess computers, very well and analyzed. And we get the most amount of problems to pose to our opponent. C6 was played in the game, which is a very logical move. The 2700 Grandmaster is trying to undermine the strong pawn on d5. What does white do? He ignores it. G4, going right for the kill against the black king. C takes d5. And white simply, again, he does something. He goes back bishop b3. He might have some ideas. Bishop c2, queen d3, and to give mate. Pawn to f6. Now white, before continuing anything, he realizes my king is on the c file. Let me move to safety. Bishop to e6. Black is trying to develop. Knight to d4. The knight pounces into action, kicking the bishop back. Ideas of f4, g5 are imminent, opening the black king. Queen to d7. White played queen to e2, questioning the bishop as where he wants to move. White is playing very well so far. And after bishop f7, f4. White has no time to waste. So remember, white is down 2 pawns, but he has an enormous advantage here. The attack is very natural, and black's pieces are very cramped. Things are not looking well, especially all these light squared weaknesses. After rook a8, here white played queen to d3. And after knight c6, white played bishop c2, but that was not so good. White shouldn't have hesitated. He should have immediately struck with g5. That was the move. Immediately going after the king. But after bishop c2, black found a very good resource. Rook to e4. And now the game is not so clear anymore. With the rook, as fragile as it may look here, it blocks the diagonal. And now white took on c6. How would you recapture black here? The important capture was to take with the pawn to reinforce the center, to open the b file, and the queen could easily keep an eye on what's going on the king's side. Black in the game took back with the queen, and now his queen is on the wrong side of the board, away from the king, and white struck. Pawn to g5, going after it. Black takes, white takes, again, the rook is ready. After pawn takes again, rook takes g5. The king is not looking too well. Meanwhile, our king is here, chilling out, relaxing, and black is in deep trouble here. Rook e8, another important move, queen to g3. Defending against e1 and attacking on g7. There's nothing black could do. He cannot even defend this. Rook e3 was played. Simply rook takes g7. And after king f8, white finished them off in superb style. Rook takes f7, just opening up the king. King takes. Rook f1 check. Bringing the rook into the game. The king has to run to the other side. And after king e7, simply queen takes e3. Winning a rook. Pawn is ready to go. White is up a piece. King d8, simply queen g5. King c7, and white went h6. Queen c4, rook c1, ready to do a discovery. And after king b6, simply h7. And after queen d4, black resigned after queen g1, simply getting the queens off. So look how little in tournament practice a 2700 Grandmaster was taken down very easily by a much lower rated player in our opening. What does that say? This is not the boring Roy Lopez. This is not some boring opening. This opening puts little problems that forces our opponent to solve. If we go back, even when white made a mistake, which was bishop c2 allowing rook e4, black immediately blundered again one move after. That's to show how complex the position is, that even if we slip up a bit, our opponent can immediately slip up again. So this is really fighting chess. This is what we want to play like. And if you like this opening here, I cover this in detail, as well as the real Scotch Gambit, in my course on Chessable, the Fast and Furious Scotch Gambit, with the link being in description.